This is the Zac Anesbury Show.
Welcome. On today's podcast clip, we have the head of marketing of the Collingwood Football Club, Karina Whiteford. So you have also been a project director at Nation Creative?
Yeah, so
I don't know what that actually means, fill me in.
This I went through a little bit of a I guess it was realising that sport was where I wanted to work, and my role at SATC, so Tourism Commission, was a maternity leave contract. So it actually wasn't permanent ongoing, so it was a bit of a risk jumping from what I had in the retail property area, and sort of that really stability and everything, and trying something totally new that I wasn't sure I was going to like and was only going to be doing for 18 months or however long it ended up being. So when the end of my contract came up, I sort of had to have a real sort of mirror moment of looking at myself and going, what do I want? What am I trying to do? And in that moment, I knew that I was never going to be doing my best work and making the biggest impact in an industry I wasn't passionate about.
Okay.
So I took a really, really big risk and decided that I wasn't going to apply for any old job just for the sake of making money or whatever it might have been. I was going to take the risk and just freelance until the right job came up. And it so happened that through a very valuable friend of mine, she introduced me to Greg Kanagi, who is the CEO of Nation Creative. And he just needed a little bit of help for 6 or 7 months or something like that. Just in terms of operationally, the agency was going through a little bit of change. I love helping people. So I sort of had an initial chat with Greg, and he and I have very similar ways of thinking, and we immediately just got along like a house on fire. And so through the freelancing side of what I was doing, ended up working at Nation Creative.
Okay, they offered you a full-time role.
Well, yeah, I was just there every week. I kind of started just rocking up and being like,
did
hey,
they
guys,
offer you a position,
something?
or did you just not leave?
They ended up, kicking me out. They had security involved. No, and I truly loved working there. But that was actually something that, and I'm very philosophical and really believe in this whole, like, everything's meant to happen and all that cliche stuff, because it truly is. And this believing in myself and saying, you're not going to be great if you don't work somewhere that you're not passionate, just take time, take a breather, let things happen, really worked out, because the time that I spent at Nation probably gave me the most sound and I don't know how to describe it, but just my understanding of strategy, and in terms of how we communicate to people that see, so in the sense of creative, like how we communicate to people is really embedded in strategy, and how we identify brands and how we think about them, and just, like just putting together an ad to sell something needs to mean something. And I think that was the biggest takeout of my whole time at Nation, was just having a really refreshed view on what strategy means for marketing, communications and brand and all of that. So until that point, it had felt quite retail and quite tactical. So working with the Nation Creates team was, So
they were solely on the creative copy side, or they schedule media as well, or? Yeah,
so they were founded based on the fact that they didn't think that, they sort of wanted to be a disruptor in the advertising agency sort of sector, and they built themselves on the fact that they do things differently. And they were sort of going through an evolution of becoming an ad agency that did creative and copy and servicing in the sense of media buy and TVCs and things, to really going that bit deeper. And understanding, well, what are you trying to achieve? Like, who are you? What is your brand? What does it represent? Why do people want to connect with you? And there's a lot of, Simon Sinek feeling around that work, in terms of like, find your why, what's your purpose? Because that's really what people are connecting into, rather than, these tactical benefits or features anymore. It's feeling more powerful connections. So they were going through this evolution of being like an ad agency to being more of a marketing communication strategy agency with creative output.
Okay.
And so that really reframed how I thought about that side of things as well.
Yeah. And so what was your role while you were there?
So project director, so I was working on different client needs. So it was actually nice to go on the other side in the sense of being the one that got the brief from the client instead of being the client. And was working really closely with the CEO in terms of how that side of the business was developed, and then working with him on clients as well.
Okay, so you were putting together the creative, or you were...
No, working on like the strategy and having the workshop sessions to find, so we would do the discovery sessions. Okay. So looking at how we unearth their purpose and their why, and translating that into a strategy that then connected into creative output.
Yeah. Okay. And so then from there, you obviously knew you wanted to get into sport from your experience with Clipsal and the supercars and everything. Then you got a lot of experience through like this, the new place at Nation.
Yep.
And then from there, you found yourself in the SANFL?
Yeah, in Sandford, yeah.
How'd you manage to find yourself there?
Well, I guess it was, like I said, I was waiting for the right role. I was waiting for the industry that I wanted to be working in, which was sport.
Yeah.
So, and obviously I was really transparent with Greg about that. And
I'm jumping ship. As soon as I find something, mate, I'm
He's like, God,
here.
I cannot wait. You've been hanging around. We didn't need you for another 4 months. But,
we haven't even paid you. What are you doing here?
It was such a cool office as well. Yeah, certainly. So when the role came up, I probably knew that the actual role was probably a little bit junior to my experience and to what I was wanting, but I knew that it was a great entrance into the sporting industry.
In particular football, or you didn't really care which sport?
No, I wasn't exclusively looking at football. I think I grew up in a soccer family, so AFL was probably a little bit foreign, and none of my family even knew when I got the job at Collingwood. My mum was telling everyone she knew that I got a job at Collinswood. So that's like what we're working with here.
Your marketing needs to start at home.
Honestly, the soccer market is what we'll go for next. No. So I grew up in a soccer family, so I actually thought that I would be best suited to soccer because I just knew the game, I'd played it. But yeah, certainly wasn't exclusively looking at any particular sporting code. But yeah, so footy just ended up being the one, and Sandford, it all worked out. And yeah. Because
the role there was brand communications consultant?
No, that one was digital marketing coordinator.
Officer. Yep.
Something like that, yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Seems like forever ago.
Yeah, and so you thought at that time you really took I don't know how to put this, like maybe it
was like an adjacent step.
Yeah, but you realised you were happy to do that to get into something you're passionate about. Yes. Because your true skills wouldn't come out unless you're actually passionate about it.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, that makes a lot of sense.
And I think, I was just excited for a new challenge in terms of like the application as well. I'd done obviously motorsport, and I knew that, and not of course that I knew everything, but I was keen to sort of cut my teeth on something new. And I sort of don't like limiting myself to trying to think too far ahead about what can and can't happen. And I always like to think quite positively and sort of think, well, who knows, if I make a really good impact from this job, you just don't know what they're going to want to, promote you or expand your scope of work, or you just don't know. And certainly like the interviews were so much fun. Like everyone was just so nice, and I just knew that the culture fit was going to be great.
Okay.
And that it was a really good entrance point to understanding a new world.
So I'm coming at this from a completely different view, right? Or my experience. So I literally did my undergraduate at UniSA, then I did honours, master's, PhD, and now I'm a research fellow there.
Yes.
And then I looked at like your CV, and I'm like, you've been at a lot of places. And your experience is the opposite to me. You're very good at what appears to be moving to new environments, becoming quite comfortable, building good relationships, thriving in that environment, and then finding a new challenge.
Yes.
Do you think that's something that has worked well for you?
Absolutely. There's one thing, and I'm almost becoming a bit preachy about it. I think everyone at work's almost getting a little bit sick of it. Only 11 months in. No, they're not. They're certainly putting a polite face on anyway. But no, I think self-awareness is the best asset you can have. And it's not even just, like, oh, this is who I am and this is what I like. But it goes beyond that. This is how I operate. This is this is the way I like to receive information, or this is the best way I build relationships. And I think that has been integral for me in the sense that it's happened for me professionally and personally. And I think you have moments where you have to reflect on who you are and what you can and can't change about yourself.
Okay.
And I think that is the most... Yeah, it's just it's the best asset, because you're then very clear about what you want, and I guess you're not defined by what you are not. You are just sort of very strongly, I don't know how to word it. It's just empowering when you believe in yourself and you understand yourself to be able to then make moves that might seem risky from the outside, and create connections off nothing, because you're just, this is who I am, this is how I go about it, and you don't need to factor in anything else, because you're sort of, I don't know, it's like the whole idea of don't be anyone but yourself, because they're all taken, or whatever, however it goes. And certainly I try to get a vibe for how other people operate, and I think I'm a little bit intuitive in that sense, so I'm probably a bit lucky to be able to then assess how I approach them based on how I work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I was just about to ask you, because I think, because I hear about you and your reasoning behind doing this, and that sort of thing is petrifying to me, right? Like, I love my office. I love the place I work. I mean, I'm fortunate that it's a job I'm very passionate about, and I have wonderful co-workers, and I'm at the forefront of my industry, so I'm pretty proud of that. But to me, even if it wasn't, I think I'm not that sort of person who just moves on. So is that something that you've always been, or is it something you've sort of trained yourself to do?
I think I've trained myself to do it.
Yeah.
And certainly I'd noticed in myself that the time it took for me to settle into a new workplace was getting shorter every time I started a new place. And I was like, okay, so this is becoming more and more familiar. And certainly I still get first day nerves. Like, I still get shaky. I still worry about everything. I'm certainly not exempt from that. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of training in the sense that if I want these things, and if this is what makes me happy and where I feel like I'm making the best impact and having the most, I feel rewarded, then I need to get over these short-term feelings.
Yeah. Because
ultimately I'll feel better later, because that's what really makes me happy and gives me that feeling, that feeling of, I guess, trepidation only lasts for about 5 days now.
Okay.
And then I'm cracking jokes and making everyone laugh. So
that's pretty good. 5 days is pretty good. Hey guys, it's Zac Anesbury here with just a couple of quick reminders. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. There are plenty more interviews to come with some of the world's leading marketing academics and practitioners. You do not want to miss these. In the meantime, if you're looking for another way to connect, then follow me on Twitter at Zac Anesbury. That is ZACANESBURY, for my take on the marketing issues of the day.